Okay, take two on talking about the Trickster. I did 3.5 minutes, paused it, and forgot to start it again. There's the Trickster for you. So I hope it still comes out fresh because I did probably about 7 or 8 minutes. And it's about Trump as Trickster. We need tricksters. And we're not, at least half the people aren't going to like them because what tricksters do is they upset the status quo. And that's what Trump has done par excellence. Humans want things to carry on as before. We need traditions. We need to know where we stand. It enables us to go deep with things, to establish them, to build foundations. But it also means we get stuck in our ways. We get stuck in our comfort zone. We get too cozy. And we stop growing, we stop changing, we go to sleep. And so the function of the trickster is to wake us up. And almost by definition, it's not going to be comfortable. Not for most of us. Brexit in the UK in 2016, massive shake-up. So many people hated it. But it was a good thing from the point of view as it got us thinking differently. I don't know whether from other considerations it's good or not. Yeah, I'm not an economist, I'm not a politician. But the fact that it shook everyone up was good. And that's what Trump has done par excellence. And is still doing. Not just to the USA, but to the whole Western world and probably beyond. It's very difficult to talk about this man because people, they just really, really don't like him. Fair enough, yeah? But that means they also find it impossible to consider him. A test is if you say to them, he's brought peace across all sorts of parts of the world over the last year. He's arranged peace deals. They may or may not last, but it's unprecedented the degree to which he's done that. That's very difficult for a lot of people. How do they take that on board? Because they really don't like him in all aspects. And it's really interesting. I do drop that in conversation occasionally, and you just see them almost like they try and change the subject. People just don't know what to do with it. I mean, I say, if someone actively brings peace around the world, they've got compassion. By definition, that's what compassion is. And it's so hard for a lot of people to conceive that Donald Trump could have compassion. For them, he's the opposite of compassion. But he's a rough guy. He's a particular sort of masculinity. It's a kind of rough masculinity that has actually got a heart, but that conceals it, because it's sensitive, conceals it in a way underneath a rough manner and rough speech. He can be quite rough. He comes up from the streets of New York. Yes, he made a lot of money, but he was a builder. He was in that world. It's a tough world, dog-eat-dog world. Yeah. So he's like that as well. But that doesn't mean he hasn't got a heart. He's shown that he has. But he's the trickster, so you don't realize it. In astrology, Mercury is the trickster. There's a story about Mercury, is that he stole some cows. And what he did is he put on all their put shoes on them that were backwards and then ran off with them. And so it looked like, when they found the tracks of the cows, it looked like they were going in the other direction. They weren't off looking in the wrong direction. That's a trickster for you. But eventually, he owned up to it. And I can't remember what the consequences were. So that's the trickster for you. Mercury. He speaks in riddles. He speaks in paradoxes. A paradox has been described as a truth standing on its head to attract attention to itself. And they're humorous. They use humour. Trump is always using humour. People don't realise it. They take it literally and go, isn't he stupid to think something like that? They had it on Have I Got News For You, a UK comedy programme. Trump was talking about the stealth bomber and goes, I reckon I could see it. Maybe the fact that its wings turned up means you can't see it, but I reckon I could. And they were going, isn't he stupid? He's missing the whole point, da-di-da-di-da-di-da. He was joking. He was having a bit of fun at the expense of this super secret, super stealthy stealth bomber. People couldn't see it. Uranus is also the trickster. Now, Trump is a Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. So he's got the trickster. It's conjunct Uranus as well. He's a double trickster. Mercury, if you like, is the personal trickster. Uranus is the transpersonal trickster. And that's what he is. He's shaking up the whole world. He's got it in his 10th house, which is the world. Yeah. And sometimes that's all people can see. All they can see is this guy who makes no sense at all. You know, we're just living in these crazy times. It's just a craziness what's happening in America. You need to be there. You know, you don't know what it's like over here. That's because they can't see Trump. All they see is the craziness, the apparent craziness. What they don't see is opposite his sun is his moon. He was born on the full moon. And his moon is in Sagittarius. So that's his emotional nature. Sagittarius has beliefs. And Trump has these long-standing beliefs. I was watching an interview with him in the 80s. He was going on about Japan, and Japan needs to pay more for its military protection. We pay too much. He's been saying that about NATO for years. Everything he's doing now, he's been saying for years if you watch him. But people don't pay attention to that because they don't really study it. Yeah, all they see is what he's saying now. And it just seems crazy, and we don't know what's coming next. But actually, there's always sense to it. And there is this thing, you don't know what's coming next. When he was a businessman, he was like that. No one knew what his plans were. He said it, I keep people guessing. I don't let people know what I'm up to. And he does that politically. We were taken complete by surprise when he stole Maduro. If that wasn't a trickster act, yeah? When he took out Iran's nuclear facilities. He said, well, I'll make my mind up over the next 2 weeks. And then like 2 days later, it happened in the night, and he told us when he'd done it. He keeps you guessing about what he's up to. That's another trickster thing. But it really works if you want to achieve something. We don't need to know what he's going to do militarily. We'd like to know, but we don't. We don't know what he's going to do with Iran currently. We just don't know. He's not saying. He'll have something no one has thought of. Because there is a genius quality, also a really original quality that you get with Trickster Mercury. And I'm not saying Trump's a genius, but he does have that original quality. You see it in someone like Elon Musk. He's got that genius quality. He invented spaceships that land. Yeah? He invented the first commercial electric car. He does these things. You never quite know what he's going to do. So this is the nature of Trump, is he shakes things up. He changes the paradigm, and he's done it in just about every way possible. He's done it culturally. He comes in and he goes, right, no DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. And it does things like you favour black people, for example, when it comes to job applications or university places, and rather than on merit. And it means you end up not taking black people's degrees seriously, for example. And you end up eventually with a kind of reverse racism. And so he goes, no, we do it on merit. He got rid of transgender. He says, right, from now on, there's just 2 genders, and we're going to get rid of nearly every transgender operation. Out with that. Huge cultural change straight away. Economically, right, we're going to have tariffs, which are right against the economic orthodoxy. But he does it. I don't know if it'll work or not. I'm not an economist, not a politician either. I don't know in detail, but the fact is he's upset the orthodoxy. It gets people to think, because people get ruled by ideologies rather than what works practically. And he's also said, none of this net zero. We're going to drill for oil. Drill, baby, drill. So again, it was the orthodoxy that we're destroying the planet through burning oil. He goes, it's the biggest hoax ever. It's not true. We're destroying ourselves industrially. We need cheap energy again. He upsets the apple cart. And then politically, the world order. He's upset that. Instead of us, the world, imagining it's moving towards international law. Yeah? United Nations, International Criminal Court. He's gone, sod all that. That's not real. It's always been about the big powers up against each other. They've always done what they want to anyway. And we've just made exceptions for it. Yeah, but it's happening anyway. So let's get real about this. And I'm going to protect the Western Hemisphere because that's America's domain. We'll have proper military protection in Greenland before Russia and China get there. We'll get rid of regimes in our hemisphere that oppose us ideologically, like Venezuela, that has Hezbollah training camps. Cuba, that has Russian listening devices. We're going to oppose all of that. We're going to bring about revolution. But he doesn't do it with boots on the ground because he doesn't like war. He really doesn't like killing people. He does do it if he feels he has to. He's not shy of that. But he holds back from that. So yeah, that's Trump the trickster. And we can really get to know the trickster archetype through watching this president. It's the best example we'll ever have. And it's not going to last. Now, when a leader comes into power, there's usually transits that reflect that to their personal chart. Tony Blair, for example, I was able to predict that he would leave sometime in 2007 or 2008. And in fact, he left in 2007 because the Pluto transits, the major Pluto transits, which had empowered him through his time in power, were coming to an end. So he would no longer be empowered by Pluto. Now, Trump has had Uranus transits. That's what's empowered him. He's had Uranus on his angles and Mars. So Uranus was on his midheaven, actually in 2024 as he was campaigning. It was on his midheaven next to Mars in Taurus when there was that failed assassination attempt. It was like spot on symbolically. And it was the biggest comeback in history, him becoming president, having, there'd been lawfare against him. All those law cases that wouldn't normally be brought against people were brought against him as an attempt to stop him. And he was like this bull that wasn't going to be stopped. And then Uranus has continued since then. It's been squaring his Mars rising and squaring his ascendant. Incidentally, his Mars rising, that's the big stick he carries. His Venus, which rules his midheaven, is in Cancer. He does actually care. That's the compassion I was talking about. And it's conjunct Saturn. So there's his responsibility to stop wars, yeah? It rules his midheaven. But behind it, there's Mars. He'll wield a big stick, yeah? He'll put sanctions on you if you don't stop fighting. Cambodia and Vietnam or whichever, Indochina, whatever countries are fighting. I'll put sanctions on you so they stop. Yeah, so that's how they work. But anyway, Uranus conjuncting his midheaven, squaring his Mars and squaring his ascendant. And that's been going on continually since he's been president. That's why it's been such a roller coaster ride, one change after another. And you never know what's coming next. You never know he's going to say. And that's part of it with him. He doesn't say what he's going to do. And that leaves him freedom. And so these transits, and this is my point, they're coming to an end at the end of April. Uranus will enter Gemini and finally start to complete this period, which has been such a roller coaster ride. And what's interesting, he will then have no major transits going on. There will probably be a touch of Uranus for the end of the year. It will come back probably to within a few degrees of squaring his ascendant. Yeah. But the intensity that we've had for the last year will be coming to an end in a couple of months. So it's possible that he may not be president at some point after April this year. He may last until the next Uranus retrograde. Uranus will come back to within 2 degrees of squaring his ascendant. in February next year and then move away. So he'll have done just over 2 years as president. And I've been saying for some time that he may not complete his term. He may be one of those guys, he comes in to bring change. That's what he does. He's not the sort of guy, the steady rulership that will put all the pieces in place after they've been thrown up in the air and reset. He's not that sort of guy. He's a mutable guy. His sun is mutable. His moon is mutable. It's his destiny to be the trickster because the North Node is next to his sun Uranus. That's what he's here to do in public, in the world. He's doing what he was born to do. Whether or not you agree with it, I will go so far as to say I agree with the shake-up because we need shake-ups. I'm not going to comment on specifically what they are, but I think the one thing we can say is if there are any major wars, they're not going to be because of him. He's the guy who stops them. So bear that in mind. Yeah. Next time you want to roll on the carpet, chewing the edges of it about what an awful person he is. See if you can pull back from that and assess him and think about him in terms of the trickster, the fool who upsets things. We may only have another year of it. And it's like the biggest single change in our lifetimes. It's quite remarkable what he's doing. So there you go. There's something about the trickster and Donald Trump as trickster. That's what's happening. Yeah. And if it just seems too crazy to you, if all you can see is the craziness, look to his moon. Look at the opposite part because those are the underlying beliefs that it is serving. They're things that he's been saying for years. That's how you can find it out. Look beneath the personality. Look beneath your inability to make sense of him. He is very difficult to make sense of, but it is possible. Okay, I'll leave it there.